Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Formula Prox. Formula Prox. Excuse me, I'm repeating myself already. Formula Prox Fall Season 2020, the penultimate race in our series. That, of course, means the second to last. It also means that I have read a couple of books. Are you impressed? Of course you are. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our race tonight. As I say, the second to last race in our series, you join us just at the beginning of the qualifying session. Drivers will be on track, of course, qualifying to see who will grid first for Heat 1. Of course, Heat 2 is a reverse grid, so it will be even, we will be able to mix it up in that way. There is Thor Tulla going through in an Eddie Van Halen livery. He's following somebody. I believe Tulla and Lovett both have the Eddie Van Halen livery, so that's a tribute to guitar player Eddie Van Halen. I guess. I mean, why not? Right? Why not? Sadly, sad that he passed away this week. So it goes. Here is Greenberg in his usual oregano livery. Now, let me just, by the way, I should say, my name is Jim Hodgson. Thank you so much for joining us for another Formula Prox race. An the second to last race in the series. We do have our championship race next week when the winner will be crowned, and the winner will receive, of course, an actual trophy. You know why? Because we don't have any sponsors, so we can't give them Husenving pedals or anything like that. And we don't have any money, so we can't give them money. But we can give them a trophy. I'm also sad to note that Robert O'Brien does not appear to be with us tonight. Hopefully he is okay. We have received reports that he has fallen victim to a bizarre gardening accident. Not sure exactly what happened there, but I believe he exploded, frankly. Bits of him are all over Ireland. I'm not sure how that happened, but he's a very aggressive gardener, is O'Brien. So these things happen as we ride on board with fan favorite and commentator favorite Chuma Onubogu here in his Rothman's livery. So, as I was saying, let me run you down the series standings so far. In first place is Ryan Flannery. And also joining me on production tonight is Marco. And I've just closed my window that had the results in it. Oh boy. Am I not pleased about that? Actually, that looks like it might be right. Fantastic. Marco, you genius. Thank you, man. Ryan Flannery, here he is in first place in the series. Now, we are doing, it's an 8-race series with 2 drops. So we're now getting into the drops. So things are going to get really interesting. So Flannery, as you can see, in first place, followed by Greenberg. He's a little bit more of a crashing aficionado than an actual driving aficionado, but he appears to be doing well in the series anyway. Fred Hazelton in third place, followed by Day. Wilmot, who might not be scoring any more points. I believe that real-life commitments are going to keep him away from at least one of these last 2 races. So that might be his points for the season. Carter Kundinger, one of our finest and most sort of careful drivers, as we see him there behind the results, dueling with, I think that might have been Tulla, who just went off. And Tulla, of course, in 8th place, followed by Warren, Such, Lovett, and Mr. Vorders. We haven't seen Mr. Vorders for a couple of races. Hope he's okay. And we're just about a third of the way through qualifying now. Onubogu at the top of the timing tower. Unbelievable. There is Greenberg negotiating. It looks like he was able to better his time, yes, indeed, and take the top of the timing tower by over half a second. An impressive performance by Greenberg. As we see him navigating turns 1 and 2 here. Now, Greenberg is a very good qualifier. Really good at putting in a very, very fast lap, is Greenberg, even without the aero in his Skippy car, because, if you recall, at Laguna Seca, due to some on-track incidents, he lost all of the aero on his Skippy car, and it was more or less an angry cigar, but he was nevertheless able to put in the fastest time of the day, which is pretty amazing. And we're watching Onubogu here. I believe he is going to navigate the pit bend here onto the front straight. That was a lot of A lot of slide there. The tires on the Skippy cars are pretty hard, so they do like to slide around a little bit. Let's see if he's able to better his time. Don't think he was able to do too much better. Some smoke in the background there as we look at Tulla just leading Kundinger on track. I wonder if somebody had a little bit of an incident there. Here's Greenberg. So if you're not familiar with our series, what we've tried to do here with our balance of performance system is use iRacing, in a way that it probably wasn't necessarily intended. So what we've done here, and here's, is that, who is that in the legend? That's Hazelton, excuse me, yes, in the Wonder Bread Legends livery. So what we've tried to do is, iRacing allows a maximum of 7 cars in a session. So what we've tried to do is use different cars to institute a sort of a balance of performance system so that the drivers with a pretty big skill gap over the rest of the field don't actually get away. So what happens is if you win a race, you go down our ladder of 5 cars, 2 rungs. If you're in second place, you go down 1. If you're in third place, you stay the same. Fourth place goes up a car, and fifth place goes up 2 cars. So the idea there is that the fast guys at the front don't necessarily, they aren't able to drive off into the distance as easily as they normally would be if we were all in Skippy cars, for example. Although this season has really borne out, the concept that just keeping the car out of trouble is one of the fastest ways to negotiate a race. Now, we do make that a little bit harder for our drivers by doing 2 heats per night. So in Heat 2, we reverse the grid based on the results of Heat 1. So basically, we're just asking for trouble. But keep in mind that, these are not real cars. Nobody is out any money when they stuff their car into the wall. They just get a little bit frustrated. And the drivers are all on a Discord with one another, so they get to say very, very vulgar things to one another. Trust me when I tell you how disgusting some of these people are. Yeah, anyway, so here we are on board with Hazelton's legend. I'm a little bit surprised to see that Hazelton hasn't chosen to take the penalty. Although it's an interesting strategy move on his part to go ahead and take the legend. Perhaps he feels that Summit Point, where we are tonight, is a short enough track that the legend can be competitive. Although it appears from the qualifying results so far that he's nearly 3 seconds adrift of the pace, which is not what I would call competitive. I mean, and there's Kundinger putting a much faster, a slightly faster time. I was going to say a much faster time, but it's not that much faster, is it? It's 37 thousandths faster than Greenberg. A 122.7 does Kundinger in his, I believe he is in the Skippy car. That is pretty fast, and I'm sure that Greenberg wishes he could better his result. Now, Greenberg, of course, as I was just saying, Greenberg's had a lot of trouble keeping his car out of the boundaries of other people's cars, as we see Hazelton better his time into 124, just shy of cracking into 123. There goes Day to the top of the timing tower in his number 4 livery Skippy car. I believe that this livery, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Day's livery is some sort of I believe it's a sort of an anime or a sort of like a Pokemon style reference of some kind, but I just don't know what those references are, so I apologize for not being able to call that correctly. There is Tulla, followed closely by Kundinger. And Kundinger yet again betters his time, and Day now in P2 in qualifying. Kundinger got a nice little tow down the front straight there. I think he probably benefited a little bit from Tulla being able to tow him down the front straight there and cut the wind for him. There is Hazelton pounding along in his Legends car. So Hazelton, as you can see here, is driving a Legends car, not what you would normally think of as a a road-going sports car, but Hazelton is in that car because of good results that he's had in previous races. So again, the whole idea is to try to keep the racing on track close and, basically just reward people for completing clean laps and staying out of trouble. Although, let me just go ahead and spoil it for you. They're not going to stay out of trouble. Oh, so that is Lovett, I believe, in the number 7 car. It is indeed. So 2 cars on track tonight, again, in the Eddie Van Halen guitar livery. There's Kundinger just touching the sand on that pit bend with his outside set of tires, which is exactly what you want. That is the fastest line through that turn. As we can see, Kundinger is rewarded with the top of the timing tower. And here comes Greenberg, I'm sure. A very good qualifier is Greenberg. I would expect him to do a little bit better than P3, where he is at the moment. Let's see if he can better his time. He does, but not enough to overcome Day and Kundinger. We're just ticking over into, oh no, there's Chuma off track in his Rothman's livery Skippy car. He just probably lost the rear of the car there. As I was saying, I would expect Greenberg to be doing a little bit better than he is. He is a good qualifier. Let's see. I believe we're on board with Michael Day here. Let's see. He betters his time again. What a qualifying this is. A real back and forth between Day and Kundinger, setting fastest laps, getting way down into the 122s. I would expect within the next 2 laps or so, they probably have 2 laps or so each to do. It would not at all surprise me to see them dip down into the 121s. They're so close. Day just 59 thousandths, 122.059. I would not be surprised at all, to see a driver like Kundinger really challenged Day's results so far. Tulla betters his time into a 123.1. He's able to take over P4 from Onubogu. Here we are on board with Lovett in the number 7 car. I'm sure he is every bit as big a Kimi Räikkönen fan as I am, which is why he chose number 7, even though in real life I happen to know that Lovett owns NASCARs. So perhaps he's not a Räikkönen fan at all. Here we go down the front straight with Lovett. Let's see if he's able to better his time at all. Indeed, he does. A 123.2 into P5. Leapfrogs Such and Onubogu, I believe. Surprising to me to see Hazelton with such lackluster performance there in P8, although he might be suffering from that legend car. Now, in this series, we do allow open setups, but, some cars... Oh, no. There's a little issue there for Such. Whoa, and Greenberg and Such are just having a little come together there in the carousel. It looks like, Such is missing his rear wing, so he's probably had some kind of something go on. Greenberg's car looks relatively okay. And there is Lovett off track. I'm sure Eddie Van Halen feels well remembered by that off-track excursion. Oh my goodness. Kundinger. They're just goofing off now at the end of the session. They feel they've done the best they can do. Kundinger feels like he's probably not able to catch Day, being a tenth adrift, so they're just crashing at the end of the session because, frankly, that's because that's the kind of drivers we have in this league. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a little drink of my beverage here. I just heard producer Marco in my ears as that crash was happening go, oh! Thank you again so much for joining us. That is your qualifying session, and here are your results. Day with a 122.05. Not able to dip into the 121s, as I said he might be able to do. You made a liar out of me, Day. I will find you and deal with you. And P2 is Carter Kundinger, followed by Greenberg, Tulla, Lovett, Onubogu, Such, and Hazelton. Now, keep your eye on Onubogu for this race. Onabogu has had some great results this season, particularly, I think you have to give him, without question, you have to give him most improved over the course of the season. So keep your eye on him through the course of this race. We are going to have a rolling start here, as you can see, because the pace car is on track. So keep your eye on Onabogu, just because he's been, I believe, of the people in our series, he's been the most committed to just kind of keeping his head down and returning solid results, which is exactly what he said he wanted to do at the beginning of the season. And, he's really been able to see that through. And for that reason, if for no other, he's kind of a commentator favorite, although that can be a bit of a curse. And here we are on board, not in bed with Fred Hazelton, but on board with Fred Hazelton. He's got his tack pinned, it looks like there. Just waiting for the pace car to roll out. Here come the lights. So we'll get a pretty good little rolling start down there into the pit bend and onto the front straight. And with any sort of with any luck at all, we will not have a gigantic goat rope into into turn one. There is Day pulling away from the field just a little bit. Kundinger in the corn car drives through the pace car somehow. I mean, what on earth? Here we go around pit bend. Hazelton giving himself a little bit of room there. I think he's worried that these Skippy cars are going to come together in turn one. He's not unwise to have that opinion, I must tell you. Here we go. Onto the straight, on board with Onabogu, trying to stay out of the gearbox of Tulla ahead. But also, we've got a little bit more track than I thought. I see. You'll excuse me, won't you, viewers? We might have gotten nearly a whole lap. Well, you can see some of the ambient sort of information there on the right side of your screen as Day nearly gets run down by the Kundinger is running into the pace car as well. A wind of 1 mile an hour, really nothing to speak of there. Track temperature 79 degrees Fahrenheit, not too much to speak of there. I think that's probably in the, I'm guessing, 17 or 18 degrees C, if you are more of a Celsius fan. 40% humidity, 104 degrees track temperature. So 79 degrees ambient temperature. Now here we go. We should be starting here pretty soon. We're just navigating the backside of the track. And I'm very much wishing that my co-commentator, Robert O'Brien, had joined us tonight so that I did not have to do all of the talking. But so it goes. Well, that's a very tight pack there. You can't help but wonder how that is going to go. I believe we're nearing the pit bend now. It would be at this point that, Hamilton would radio in to say the pace car is going too slowly, I'm sure. The pace car is into the pits, and we will be racing shortly. Day leading the pack onto the front straight. Everybody is nice and backed up. Just waiting for the lights there. Hazelton has a little look on the outside, even though the race hasn't begun yet. Lights are on. There we go. We are racing. So a big drag race between Kundinger and Day to get to turn one. Day, of course, has track position. Let's see if they're able to navigate turn one safely. They do. A pretty wide turn there from Kundinger, but it pays off for him. He will have the inside position now on this next turn as we ride on board with Greenberg, who has closed up the gap. We've got a good little pack here. Greenberg losing the car a little bit. A pretty big slide on that inside turn. Tulla just looking to see if he can make any sort of pass on Greenberg. A pretty good racer is Tulla. So already we have our pack sort of split into two groups. As you can see there, Lovett. Tulla's got a little bit of space between himself and Lovett, the two Eddie Van Halen cars. And speaking of space, Kundinger is getting away from Greenberg. So Kundinger is getting a little bit of space on Greenberg, who's got Day all over the rear of his car. Oh, that was Day into the gearbox of Greenberg. Day big loser on that contact. He spins, goes all the way to the back of the field. Just playing it a little bit too fast and loose, I think, was Day. Good driver. There's a little bit of a slide from Greenberg there. Day is right. Well, I don't know. That might be a sort of a netcode situation. But from the behavior of Day's car, it looked to me like he gave Greenberg a little bit of a tap. But he might also have just, dipped one of his wheels off the track and lost it that way. Speaking of which, there goes Chuma, losing the rear of his car on pit bend. So here we're looking at Hazelton attempting a pass on Such, but does not quite have the grunt to get around. Hazelton is probably feeling good that he's able to hang on to Such. If he can stay there and keep that sort of a toe going, he might be able to make something happen. He got a good run on Such there. If he had just had a little bit more area, maybe he'll be able to make something happen in the pit bench. You can really see the way that the hard tires on that Skippy car are causing Such to have to really drive it all over the track. A lot of sliding going on. The Skippy car basically has all of the poor steering you could ask from a mini car. It is a lot of fun, a great car to drive. But, it understeers, then it oversteers, and it's just all kind of madness going on. Hazelton has a look down the inside of Such, and your leader, Kundinger, has had an incident of some kind. It's off track, almost causes an incident with Lovett. There goes Such and Hazelton past, so Kundinger all the way down to the rear of the field now, and Greenberg in the lead. Also sets the fastest lap of the race. What happened to Kundinger? Let's see here. Oh, he's just going to dip a wheel and lose the rear of the car, I betcha. Let's see what happens. Yep, loses the rear on the final turn. Nearly catches it, but not quite, and turns it into a grass tank slapper there. And, if this were Formula One, I think he would get an unsafe rejoin, but it is, of course, not Formula One. Oh, there we see Hazelton and Such still duking it out. So it looks to me like Hazelton's got I think Such has got a slightly faster car, but Hazelton is maybe got a little bit more grip in the turns. Of course, as I say that, we see him go wide. Kundinger will, of course, be trying to pass these two as quickly as he can to rejoin to regain some places in the race. However, if he stays at the rear during Heat 1, he will start at the beginning of Heat 2. So perhaps that's in his mind. I don't know. Interesting to me that our series leader, Flannery, is not with us tonight. Here's the big pass by Kundinger. He takes Hazelton and Such in one go. Kundinger back up into P4. So now he'll have to run down Lovett, Tulla, and Greenberg. This is lap 4 of, probably 15-ish. Maybe not quite that many. A little bit of lockup from Such there into turn 1. So we might not get 15 laps, considering they're lapping in the 122s, and we have 10-ish minutes to go in Heat 1. It's possible. Such is trying to do his best to sort of follow Kundinger's line there. Kundinger with a big slide, and Hazelton off track. Surprising to me that Day has not been able to climb the timing tower any more than he has as a result of his race. Such apparently really overdriving the car there. A lot of lockups from him. It's easy to drive that way when you've got somebody filling up your mirrors, as Hazelton is filling up Such's mirrors right now. When everything in your mirror is the colors of the guy right behind you, that person's livery, you know that if you make a single mistake, they will jump all over you. And all you want to do is get up the road and get away from them. But as a result of not, sort of just relaxing and hitting your marks, you end up being all over the track, and then they're able to have a look at you down the front straight, as Hazelton does now on Such, which causes Day to have some difficulty. Day could have passed both of these cars on this lap, and indeed he might end up doing that. Gets a little bit of tow from Such. Now, will they have any sort of issue here into turn 1? Let's hope not. And it appears they got away with it safely. So Day up into P5. Day with a fairly significant gap. That looks like 2 seconds to me. up to Kundinger. Such back ahead of Hazelton once more. Although I'm sure that they will continue to duke it out. They seem very evenly matched in those two cars, which is the point of our balance and performance system, if you don't mind me tooting our own horn just a bit. Here we are on board with Tulla in P2. Kundinger now I think he's going to get his way back up to the lead of the race. He's already threatening Lovett here. Will surely get around Lovett on the next run down the front straight, if not here, heading to pit bend. I think if I were Kundinger, I would let it breathe a little bit here and not try to pass into a turn. He's decided to live dangerously, and they make it happen. Kundinger now up into P3. So well, I'm not sure if he's quite close enough to get a big tow from Tulla down the straight here, but certainly will help. Of course, we don't have any DRS. Sad to say. Here we go into turn 1. Now, Greenberg has himself a 6-second gap on Tulla. So I think what's happened here is that the circumstances have just, as we see Kundinger indeed pass Tulla and get back into P2. There he is. Now he has to chase down Greenberg to attempt to go for the win of Heat 1. But with a 6-second gap, just about halfway, a little bit over halfway through this race, I don't know if Kundinger is going to be able to do that. Now, let me see here. Kundinger's last lap was at a 121.9, so he did indeed get down into the 121s. Those little toes help. Very fast sectors 1 and 2. Not so fast sector 3, but good enough for a purple lap. So fastest lap of the race so far has Kundinger lapping at 121.9. If he's able to keep that up, that is a full second faster than Greenberg. As you can see here, is lapping more in the 122s. That was just a 122.6. So let's see what Greenberg is able to do as he's just about to cross the finish line here. Just now. Another fast lap from Kundinger at a 121.8. So he's only getting faster, but I do not think that he's got the time to chase Greenberg down. And if he does, if they have a mistake-free race, which is unlikely, as we see, I believe that was Lovett who just got into the rear of Day between turns 1 and 2 in that big sort of horseshoe. Let's see this again. Here we are on board with Lovett. Yep, Day passes on the inside. Lovett tries to reverse it. They lock wheels, and away he goes. Thank you very much for that. Open wheel cars. So it goes. So Day was just climbing back through the field and now has been booted off track by Lovett. I'm sure he is none too pleased. And there is Lovett displaying even more off-track ability. He's not even trying to rejoin now, just bouncing just bouncing off the tire balls. Oh, Lord. Guys, well, I wanted to start, I was commanded to start this racing league and keep it as entertaining as possible, and I think we have achieved that. And here is Kundinger. He's now got the gap down to just over 4 seconds. There you can see Greenberg now just navigating his turn into turn 1. So maybe Kundinger will indeed be able to catch him. Greenberg, I'm sure, would like to have the win in this race. He's had a lot of always the bridesmaid, never the bride sort of performances. We see him in the chute here. I'm sure he'd like to have much more solid performance tonight if only he could shovel himself over the finish line without Kundinger chasing him down. But as we're just now ticking over the 10-minute mark, Kundinger's got that gap down to just about 3.5 seconds, maybe a little more, as they're going around the carousel here. You know what? Viewers, folks, I believe I may have been wrong. Here is such off track somewhere that will not help his battle with Hazelton at all, as we see Hazelton go scampering by. Hazelton now up into P4, thanks to all the shenanigans that have happened at the front of the race. We see here a comparison between Greenberg and Kundinger in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. you can see there, there is some data there. I'm not sure how to interpret that graphic, but there it is. If you know how it, uh, I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. Marco, thank you for putting that up there. I'm just not able to. Oh, so the gap for Cunningham now down to almost 3 seconds. I think Greenberg has sort of realized that he needs to get his hat on straight, get his hands on the wheel, and do everything he can if he wants to win this race. As we see Hazelton and Such dueling together, even still with Day in the background. I wonder if now at this point in the race, I think Day has just decided, okay, I've had a couple of incidents this race. I'm going to cool it. And if I keep it cool, then I'm going to get a pretty high, sort of starting order in the reversed grid. So maybe I'll just hang out back here and not tempt fate anymore. He's had a couple of incidents during the race. Cunningham now under 3 seconds, the gap to Greenberg. This is exciting. I hope that, we should have a couple more laps left. So I think Cunningham might be able to catch him. There goes Greenberg. Here is, look how close Cunningham is now, really driving that car through that pit bend onto the front straight, just sliding it all the way out to that sand. He's gonna take a full second out of Greenberg on this lap, I think. Let's see. Yeah, Cunningham's last lap was a 121.6 versus Greenberg's 122.4. Nearly a second per lap. And, on 122 lap time, that is a pretty significant difference. These guys are just having a little party with themselves now. Oh, I believe that is turn one. Indeed it is. Day has now passed Such and Hazelton, and he's now the leader of this little group, back up into P4, but I'm sure that he will have an incident in no time at all that will send him to the rear of the field once more. Such going for the pass on Day. Get him, Such. Sure that Day will not let that stand without a fight, and of course there is Such into Day. A little bit of a nudge. Hazelton just getting towed all over the track. Day leaves Such plenty of room. In fact, using up all the track as they navigate toward this little carousel here, and Such gets into the rear of Day's car. Day's arrow is all wonky. The front fell off of Such's car, but he's continuing to drive. Oh, well, that's the kind of series this is, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. That's what you're looking for. So Cunningham's got the gap down now to 1.2. He is... okay, for sure. Well, I don't know. This could be our last lap. Or perhaps we have... yeah, so this is... we just got the white flag. So if Cunningham's not able to make it happen on this lap, it will not happen at all. He's got the gap down to 1.3, 1.2, but he's going to have to do some pretty big lunging in order to get around Greenberg with that gap. There is Such attempting a pass on Day without most of his car. Balls move. Oh, he manages to get away with it, I guess. Day will now have the inside as they go through the chute toward the bend. I mean, if you're Day at this point, you just shove him out of the way, don't you? And there goes Such once again into the rear of Day's car. A little bit of argy-bargy, as they say, out there on track. Does Day have control of that car? It appears he does. Hazelton is going to try to get around and see if he can better his placement just a little bit. Here is your leader, Greenberg, with Cunningham all over him. So it's going to come down to this final turn. Cunningham, I think, yes, got a very much better run. He's going to get a big toe down the straight. He has a little look. Oh, poor timing there for Cunningham, I think, as we're headed toward the finish line, and Greenberg will be able to stay in the lead. Cunningham, of course, does a very annoyed crash and flip toward the end of the race there. Here comes Day looking for a third place finish. Cunningham with the fastest lap of the race on the final lap there. A Herculean effort, but not quite enough to take the win. Day will take, Tullo will take third place, and Day will be going for fourth. Everybody now will launch their car into the air, because that's the kind of series this is, my friends. Oh, good times. Well, what a race. I'm sure Kundinger is annoyed that he was not able to wrest the win away from Greenberg there. But so it goes. There's your leader, of course, John Greenberg, top step of the podium. Followed by Kundinger, Tola, great performance from Tola, Day, Such, Hazelton, Onabogu, and Lovett. Now, we'll have a little bit of a warm-up. I believe we have a 5-minute warm-up. Yes, indeed we do. And then we will have the next race, Heat 2. If you will excuse me. It's just a glass here with a beverage in it. Well, friends, if it sounds like I'm occasionally taking a sip of a scotch, it's because I am. As we see Kundinger drive off the track in the distance there, I can't imagine what he's up to other than just trying to hit the trees. Oof. Did I mention this is not Formula One? This is not Formula One. Wow, the trees are not real. Today I learned the trees at Summit Point, you can drive right through them. Surprisingly. Although I guess that's for safety reasons. Now, something that we've seen in the past is that these cars get out on track and they goof around during this warm-up. And then the race, Heat 2 begins. Kundinger now driving, he's submarining under the hedge there. You guys are not, by the way, drivers, you are not helping me get hired by any other series. You fools. Boy. Anyway, so they have this, we go through this sort of 5-minute warm-up between heats. And then drivers forget that their tires are cold at the beginning of Heat 2, and then we have all kinds of wrecks at Turn 1 in Heat 2. Again, recall, as we see Day just launching his car. Oh, yeah. There's that barrier. Interesting little dance the cars do. Day is, that's Kundinger. What on earth? Marco, what are we looking at? Look at these buffoons. As I was saying, the drivers will often forget that their tires are cold at the beginning of Heat 2, and there will be a big problem into Turn 1, particularly since it's a reverse grid, and the drivers who do not have quite as much pace will be starting. Now, Scott Levitt is a very good starter. Here he is in his Eddie Van Halen tribute livery, especially when we used to do standing starts, as we see him prove that he's not so good at keeping it on track. Lovett did have, just recently, has some very good results for himself in real-life racing. I believe he just recently won a local race. But real-life racing and sim racing are not the same thing, friends. Not at all. So I would expect, or at least, well, perhaps not expect, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me if there were some big incidents during this race on account of drivers forgetting that their tires are now cold, especially since they've spent the warm-up driving around the infield like unhinged hooligans. There's Day doing a miniature impression of Mark Webber at Le Mans, and I believe that was 2003. There's Hazelton flipping his Legends car around, bouncing it off of a tree. Ugh. Marco, what are we going to do with these drivers? Well, there's Kundinger. He seems to be turning in some kind of a... No. I thought he might be actually trying to put in a clean lap, but no, he's goofing around. There he goes into the tire wall. And Chuma's flipping his car. What a warm-up this has been. Just a few seconds to go as we see Day doing donuts in the infield. As soon as warm-up is over, I believe we will have our grid for Heat 2. This again is the penultimate race, so the second to last race, as we were just on board with Such there crashing through a tree. This is the second to last race in our series. The final will be next week at Road Atlanta. If you enjoy these shenanigans, do join us. There will be plenty of trees to crash into at Road Atlanta as well. Oh, mercy. Greenberg has punched part of his car through the crust of the earth, and it is now lodged in the earth's mantle, which is why his car was on fire. So I believe we're going to grid up here shortly. I should take a moment to say thank you so much to our title sponsor, Jazela Track Days, which is how most of these guys know each other from doing track days in Meat Space. Thank you so much, guys, for giving us a couple of bucks. So here's your grid for Heat 2. That is Lovett in P1, followed by Onobogu. I think Onobogu is going to get a good result here, followed by Hazelton, who is, of course, in the Legend. Hayden Such, Michael Day, Thor Tulla, Carter Kundinger, and last, but far from least, Oregano enthusiast, Jonathan Greenberg in the number 420 machine. There come the lights. And as you know from last time, it is a pretty long rolling start. So the drivers will have plenty of time to make mistakes before the race even begins. I'll just have another sip of my beverage if you guys don't mind. Oh yeah. Do like to buy a nice, smoky, peaty scotch when the weather begins to get a little bit cold. That is an enjoyable thing. Carter Kundinger there in the rear, warming up his tires, which will mean nothing because he will undoubtedly get into a race-ending incident with Greenberg. Mark my words. As we ride on board with Greenberg here, he is just behind Tulla, I believe that is, who has Dave company there on that same row. Just a lot of track on this rolling start. It's interesting to me how some tracks with the rolling start you get 200 yards, and some tracks they do a whole lap, as we see Kundinger driving through the sand there for reasons utterly unknown. The corn car warming up its tires. I'm surprised that none of these drivers have had a crash already, weaving left to right. Chuma there, getting a little bit ahead of himself. So I would expect to see Lovett get a pretty good start here. Lovett is kind of a standing start specialist in this league. He's very, very good at standing starts. We used to do all standing starts when the league started just because I like standing starts. But they did result in a lot of issues, especially in reverse grid Heat 2. Not that there aren't still a lot of issues, of course, but there were a lot of issues. And so we decided to go with rolling starts to try to, mitigate some of that. But even so, I would think that Lovett would get a pretty good start here on rolling start as we head down toward the final turn. We'll see how he does. Onobogu and Lovett have a little bit of a rivalry, which I believe Onobogu has handily won over the course of the season, if for no other reason than he seems to finish races. Lovett does not necessarily do that. Lovett leading the field now as we head down the straight, and there go the lights on, and there is the flag, the green flag from the start-finish tower. So Lovett is away. He did indeed get a pretty good start, and so did Hazelton, who is challenging Onobogu for P2 as they go down into turn 1. Onobogu lets it go wide. Day has an incident, crashes into Hazelton, hits Such, hits Greenberg. Big crash, lots of cars there. I don't know what happened to Day. He must have gotten a little hip check there. Good driver is Day, heading down into turn 1. It wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of a hip check here for Hazelton. Maybe Kundinger got into him. What happened here? Greenberg moved over. Day moved to avoid and just was not able to recover the car. I think that might have been Day's fault, guys. I'm not going to lie. Lovett still leading the field here. Lovett from Kundinger, from Onobogu, from Tulla. I wonder if Greenberg will go in for a new nose cone. It looks like he's able to steer the car, so he might choose not to do that in a short, super short race like this. It might cost him too much time as Kundinger has a look down the inside of Lovett. He seems a little bit more racy to me, does Kundinger, as they go onto the start-finish straight. And now Lovett had a little bit of an issue there in the turn, which caused Onobogu to get a run on him. Nothing Lovett can do about that. Onobogu is going to get around. The only question is, will he be able to navigate turn one safely without having a coming together? And I hope that they do. Oh, Onobogu lets it go too long. Cunninger gets into Love It off track. Onobogu off track. Tulla in the lead of the race. So now Tulla is leading this three-man group, and Greenberg all of a sudden finds himself back in the mix, even though he's missing half of his car. Here they go. Your three-car leading group. There we were, just riding on board with Cunninger in the corn car. Greenberg trying some kind of a move on Tulla and makes it happen despite the fact that he's missing half of his car. Again, Greenberg down the inside of Cunninger. You know, I mean, it's surprising to me how good Greenberg is in a car when he's missing most of it. As I was saying earlier, at Laguna Seca, you know, without all of his aero, he was able to put in the fastest lap of the race. It's almost as if when he has all of his car, it reduces some of his driving ability. He's like the biblical Samson, except the story isn't that when he cuts his hair he loses his strength. It's that when Greenberg is missing most of his body panels, his driving actually improves. So here we see Cunninger leading Greenberg and Tulla, of course, with a slightly higher top speed on account of the fact that he has the front of his car. But Greenberg, there he goes, puts in the fastest lap of the race so far. Now, it was only a 1:24.5, so I would expect those times to come down over the course of the race. But Greenberg challenging Tulla there for P2 and has it, although it wouldn't surprise me if Tulla was able to get that back. And in the process, Cunninger scampering away into the distance. Unfortunate that series leader Flannery is not with us tonight, but real-life pressures certainly are what they are, and that's why we built in drop races into the season so that people can have, you know, their real lives and see their family from time to time without feeling like their online racing series should keep them from spending time with their kids. Of course, it should not. It is important, but it's not that important. Chuma here with a pass on Hazelton. Chuma Onobogu in the number 6 car. I believe it is. Yes, it is. Hazelton, it wouldn't surprise me again if Hazelton was able to hang on to Onobogu here. He would very much like, I'm sure would Hazelton, to have another sort of mid-pack performance for points reasons. I believe Hazelton is in third season standings so far. Again, drop races have yet to get figured in. We are no doubt going to have a thrilling final next week at Run Atlanta. As we go to the replay of the start here, we are riding on board with Day. So Greenberg got a little bit ahead. Oh, I see. Okay, so that looks like... Oh, no. So that looks like... was that maybe Tulla who hit the brakes? Here we are riding on board with Greenberg. Yeah. That looked like Tulla got on the brakes, and then Greenberg moved to avoid that car, and that's what caused that whole sort of chain reaction. Here we are in another replay. That is Lovett leading a group of Chuma, and Lovett just drives right off the track. Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. He's not even heading toward the track anymore. He's just going to go somewhere else. Well, he's going to go to pit lane and get himself another car. Here we are. Well, that was Cunninger for a brief second there. Looked like he was in turn 1 and 2 and going well. What kind of a gap do we have here? That is Chuma getting around Hazelton, unless I'm mistaken. Yes, there we go. Okay, so Cunninger now has a 2-second gap and climbing on Greenberg, just over about a quarter of the race done. I am relatively sure that Cunninger will be able to hang on to that unless he has some other issue, such as just natural human oopsie-daisies that happen during a race like this, or he comes upon back markers. So here we go for a replay. That is Lovett, Chuma, and Cunninger. And once more here at the start. That's okay. That's all right. I don't know if you guys can hear Marco, but he's just well, he's got a very pleasing Italian accent. You guys are missing out. So here's Cunninger in the lead of the race in the corn machine. Now got his gap up to nearly 3 seconds. There's Greenberg just coming over the cresting the rise back there without the front of his car. So it appears that Greenberg has decided not to, attempt to pit and grab a nose cone of the car. I guess, why would you? Nearing the sort of halfway point of the race, and if you're running in second place, the only question is whether I don't think that Greenberg will be able to catch Cunninger, but whether Tulla will be able to catch Greenberg is another issue, although it doesn't appear so. So the last lap, let's see, Tulla's last lap was a 123.9 versus Greenberg's 123.7. So Greenberg, if he keeps going like he's going and doesn't have another, incident, will be able to stay away from Tulla most likely, but probably won't be able to catch Cunninger, who's now got his gap up to nearly 4 seconds. Cunninger running away. There goes Lovett off of the track once more. Now he's reversing onto the track. I don't think that's legal. That looks like Such missing the front of his car. I think it's hilarious when these Skippy cars are missing the front because you can see the driver's little feet. You can see their little toesies sticking up there. Like they're warming their feet by a fire or something. What happened to Such? Let's see. We're going to have a replay of something. So that is... Marco says this is the second crash, so that's just... Onobugu there went very, very deep into that turn. He just was not able to get the car stopped there. And some great driving from Cunninger there to keep himself out of trouble. He probably saw Onobugu come by and said to himself, look, there's no way this guy's going to be able to get his car stopped, so I'm just going to get on the brakes a little bit early and keep myself safe. Here we are with, I believe this is Such, and he must have had some kind of issue. Dipped the front of his car. Seem to be able to continue in some way. Oh, mercy. What kind of madness is going on here? Here's Cunninger in the lead of the race. Now has his gap nearly up to 5 seconds. Wow. Really putting on a masterclass is Cunninger. Not even, well, we're just about to tick over halfway through this race. So I would suspect being, considering that we're at just about to tick over 10 minutes and we've done 7 laps, I would say we'll probably end up doing 14 or 15 laps since we have a 20-minute hard out. I'm not a mathematician, guys, but I think there's Lovett driving off the track for reasons unknown. Day is able to catch up to him. Excuse me, that was not Lovett, that was Such. Day with a big run on Such. I think he's going to try to make a pass, and indeed he does. Going down the front straight, Such moves his car over so that he can get as much tow as possible. Day turns in a 121.9, fastest lap of the race so far. Such has a little bit of trouble getting his car stopped, which made for an ungainly turn 1. There goes Hazelton pounding around in his Legends car. Unfortunate for Hazelton, he's not a little bit sort of racier in the Legend. Now, drivers can choose to not race. They can choose to race in a car other than the one that they're slated to race in, but they do take a series penalty. In our case, it's 10 points. I think Hazelton might have been smart during this race to take the penalty so that he could be in the Skip Barber car. It's tough though, because if you're Hazelton, so if he had raced tonight in the Skip Barber car, and he had finished second, then Hazelton would take a 1 car reduction. He would go 1 car down the ladder, the balance of performance car ladder, but he wouldn't go down 1 from the Skippy car. He would go down 1 from the Legends car. So he would be For the championship next week, he would be in the MX-5 Miata. Not a bad car to be driving at Road Atlanta is the Miata. As we see Day here catching Hazelton's car. Now, what Hazelton might be thinking to himself is, I definitely want the Skip Barber at Road Atlanta. Road Atlanta is the home track for most of this field. We've all been around Road Atlanta many, many times in real life, so we feel like we all know it pretty well. So Hazelton may be deciding that, yes, he will take the penalty, but he's going to wait until next week. Of course, if he finishes where he is, if he finishes the night, let's see, in 5th or below, he will be in the Skippy car next week anyway. So that might be what's going through his mind. There is Kundinger completing yet another lap, heading on to the start-finish straight with a big gap on Greenberg. He's now got the gap up to 8 seconds. Greenberg just in the distance there with his half of his car appearing in the distance. So far, Greenberg is still staying ahead. He's just getting a few tenths, like 2/10 a lap on Tulla, so that Tulla is not able to get himself in striking distance as we ride along board here with Chuma, who, how is Chuma doing? His last was a 123.2 versus Tulla's 123.6. So Chuma might be able to threaten Tulla for P3. I know that Chuma would like to have a podium finish, so this might be our race to watch for the rest of the session. If Onabogu can catch up to Tulla there, I know that he would like to have that podium finish in race 2. Could we see the intervals, Marco, please? Just would like to see, without having to do a whole lot of math, what the gap is from Onabogu to Tulla. There we go. It's just he's got it down to 4/10 now. I think he's going to be able to make some kind of a move on Tulla, and I think Tulla can feel it coming. Just looking at the attitude of Tulla's car, the way that he's driving, Chuma's all over him now. So the only question left is, will Chuma be able to make this pass? As we go on to the start finish straight, Chuma's going to get a big toe. You would expect to see some kind of move come down into turn 1, but I think that Tulla's just a little bit too far away. I would hate to see Chuma throw this opportunity away by making a big lunge down. He really fought himself on that. Tulla overcooked it a little bit. Now Chuma all over Tulla's gearbox as a result of him overcooking it there in turn 2. So Chuma is going to pull alongside. Not a great place to really negotiate a pass as they go through this chute. Chuma and Tulla come together. Chuma off into the sand, but ahead. So they got their elbows out there and had a little bit of back and forth. Tulla, I'm sure, not pleased with that and looking to do everything he can to make that up. Probably have 3 or 4 laps left to go here, so he's got some time. In Tulla's case, if I were his race engineer, I would be on the radio right now just saying, okay, take it easy, just hit your marks, drive your laps, because when you get mad, that's when the accidents, that's when the mistakes really happen. So we can see Tulla here closing the gap back up to Chuma. He's got it down to just over 4/10 now. And, just getting to that car and closing those couple of meters to that car is consuming Tulla's entire mind right now. That's everything in his thoughts as we see Chuma driving. It looks to me like just a little bit defensively there, just placing his car sort of in the middle of the track. As we come to turn 1, they get the cars slowed down. Chuma takes a little bit too much curb there on the inside, but is able to stay ahead of Tulla. And away we go. So we're at just about 16 minutes now. 4 minutes left to go in this race. That's probably going to translate to, I would guess, 3 laps. We won't know until we get the white flag. I'm sure that Marco will let me know. As we see now, we've got a group of Tulla, Onabogu, and I believe that is Lovett ahead. Lovett causing problems for Onabogu. A big smoky lockup there for Onabogu, but they get by without too much issue. Onabogu goes wide. Tulla has a look down the inside, not able to turn it into a move just yet. finishing the navigation of the carousel, though. Tulla all over the rear of Onobogu's car. They're able to keep it clean so far as we head toward the final turn of this lap. Here we go down onto the pit bend. You can just see the pit road there on the inside. Tulla will be thinking, this has got to be it. This has got to be my lap. 17 minutes to go of 20. Probably only 2 laps to go. We don't know for sure yet. Onobogu's still ahead. Tulla has a look. Chuma moves to cut him off. Will he be able to get his car slowed down in time for turn 1? He does indeed, even though he was on the very inside of turn 1. That was a surprising, that was good driving there from Onobogu. Great driving from Onobogu and Tulla to put on this show for us and not have too much of an issue. Although, time will tell, friends. So, here we go. Chuma now headed up toward the carousel once more. Tulla all over his gearbox. Chuma can hear Tulla's heartbeat at this point. They're so close together. He can hear Tulla's fingers moving back and forth on his steering wheel. Tulla sliding the car all over the place. It looks like some of the aero on Tulla's car is a little bit folded up. Here we are riding on board with Tulla, and you can see, yes, indeed, that his aero is, he's missing his front aero, so it might be causing some understeer for him, which makes it a little bit harder for him to catch up to Onobogu. It looks to me like Onobogu is making a little bit of time on Tulla. Maybe just, a hundredth or a thousandth here or there is all he needs to be able to stay away. But to me, for these drivers, 2 to go, did you say, Marco? Fantastic. Thank you. Grazie. So here we are on to the front straight again once more. Onobogu, Tulla has his little look down the inside, not quite close enough to make it happen. So this is, there is Day just poking along. He's a very, Day, I say that with surprise because Day is such a good driver and has been so fast in this series, in this league all series long. I wonder why he's just motoring along. Maybe he's out of gas. These guys usually, I wonder what they're doing, and then they explain it to me in the Discord after the race. So I won't know until I talk to them after the race. Here we go. Once more, Chuma Onobogu leading Tulla toward the carousel. Still ahead. Onobogu's now got the lap up to nearly a second, which I'm sure that he would be pleased to know. As we see Such losing his car, that's most likely Lovett now missing the front of his car as well. Lovett back on track. What happened between these two guys? There's Such driving along, dips the rear, loses his car. Not sure how Lovett got mixed up in that, but there he goes into the tire wall. So, white flag, 1 lap to go. There is Onobogu. He is in P3. Tulla in P4. Tulla wants nothing more than to get around Onobogu on this final lap as we ride along with Day, who is in 5th position. You would think that Day would try to make some kind of a lunge on Tulla during this final lap, but he seems to have been just kind of chilling out for the most of this race. One final sip of the old beverage as we finish up. We head toward the latter half of this last lap. Day, yes indeed, having his look on Tulla. They're able to keep it clean. Onobogu with a little lock up there as they go into the carousel. I'm sure Onobogu wishes he hadn't done that. Caused him to run wide, caused Tulla to be able to close up the gap a little bit. Day ready to pounce on Tulla. I think that Day might stay all over Tulla and try to make a move down the front straight. And speaking of the front straight, here is Kundinger driving through the grass, as you do when you've got a gigantic lead on the rest of the field. There's Kundinger taking the win in the grass, and he will launch himself into the air, as indeed he does. And there's Tulla being threatened by Day. Day on the outside there. It looks like Day's going to have the speed to make a pass on Tulla down the front straight and take that P4 away from Tulla. Indeed, he does. Chuma hangs on to his 3rd place finish. I'm sure that he'll be pleased with that. Greenberg in P2. And here comes Hazelton in the Wonder Bread Legend, trundling along like a trusty beetle. And he will bring that bread van across the start-finish line shortly.
And I'm sure that there will be a spectacular wreck to follow as soon as he crosses the start finish line. Let's see what he does with himself as he crosses start finish. Well, he's done and he's just driving along. Thanks for nothing, Fred. Way to make a liar out of me. Well, what a race, ladies and gentlemen. A great finish there. What a battle between Onobogu and Tulla, as we see Lovett and Such battling for who can hit the tire wall hardest. Such got into the rear of Lovett there. Oh, that was why they were both off track before, I'm sure. So there you have it, friends. The penultimate race, as we see Cunningham pounding along here. The penultimate race in the Formula Prox 2020 Fall Series. Again, next week, the championship race at Road Atlanta, as we see Kundinger launching himself through an oak tree. Thank you so much to our title sponsor, Jay Zilla. Thank you so much to Apex Racing, who have made this a joy and a pleasure. You guys, the professionalism of these guys has been so great. Marker, thank you so much. Dennis has been great. Lee, everybody with Apex Racing, we really appreciate it. You guys have really made this so much fun. If you're thinking of running a series like that, do talk to these guys. They will make it super easy for you. I have been Jim Hodson. Thank you so much for watching Formula Prox. Check us out at fprox.net. Join us next week. Hope you're staying healthy and happy out there. We will see you next time.